Woohoo here. Sorry I don't look fresher, but it's been a tough week. I had a brother, his name was Andy, that passed away. He got schizophrenia when I was about 16, and it was a very severe form of paranoid schizophrenia, and I'd say on a scale of 1 to 10, he was probably a 10. So he's heavily medicated most of his life to keep from hallucinations as well as delusions and things such as that. Very hard on him, very hard on the family and anyone who had to assist him through the years. So I wanted to read the eulogy that I read at his funeral yesterday. And because emotions got the best of me and I broke down a few times, I had to read it in such a way which was maybe difficult to understand for some people. So I wanted to read it and have it on record for anyone who wants to listen to it. And here goes. I would like to thank Pastor Hilden and Joanne Watson for helping arrange this service and for their service to the church and our community. We are very fortunate to have them here. Andy was 6 years older than me. He was always a very disciplined kid growing up. He was very neat and tidy and a very hard worker. He diligently did whatever chores Dad told him to do. He was also very supportive of me and a protector as well. The events of the last few weeks have had me dwelling mostly on our childhood, which was short of idyllic. It was the 70s and classic rock was the theme of the household. We each had our bands. Tom's were the Rolling Stones and Pink Floyd. Andy's faves were Rush and Led Zeppelin, and mine were Elvis and the Beatles. It was forbidden for any one of us to cross over and like the other's bands, for there would be nothing to argue about. There was no internet back then to settle the score on who recorded the best albums, so we'd have to break out Robert Christgau's record guide. Fortunately for me, Christgau hated Rush, barely giving them 2 stars, even on a generous review. But the Beatles albums all got perfect 5-star ratings. But it wasn't always a battle. We'd often break out the tennis rackets, pop in a neutral band like Aerosmith, and go to town on some ferocious air guitar jams in the kitchen. Halloween was also a big deal in our house. Fortunately, we had a mother who encouraged us to go Halloweening. It's not clear if she was aware of what we were actually doing, although I think she purchased the paraffin on occasion. Anyone here under 50 might have to look that word up. Honestly, most of the stuff we did back then would be felonies today, but hey, it was a different time, and we took it seriously. This one time we got a group of about 5 people together from the neighborhood, synchronized our watches, and headed to the nearest teacher's house we could find. We had one person manning the phone. This was before caller ID. One at the front door, one at the back door, and 2 more at opposite windows. We all took our positions, and at exactly 10:30 p.m., we would each perform our assigned task. That's where the synchronized watches came in. We would then run away laughing our heads off and meet back at our house to have a war room briefing, discussing the amount of mayhem and havoc we must have created in that poor teacher's life, and how we could do even better next time. Many people have also mentioned to me in recent days about Andy's cannonball prowess. There's a small pool called Miller's Pool across the street from our house at the theological seminary. Andy was really into weightlifting at this time, and he was very muscular and beefy. He could create a massive tidal wave that would splash everyone within 30 feet of the pool. It was quite the wonder. Andy was truly Ashland famous because of this, even to this day. Only people from Ashland will know what Ashland famous means. As I mentioned earlier, Andy was always very supportive of me, which reminds me of an early childhood story. The Moores lived 2 doors down on Center Street. All the houses on this stretch of center had very long backyards. Of course, as a kid, it seems like they went on forever, which made it great for football games, frisbee golf, and hide and seek. This was also a time when survival movies were big, like Grizzly Adams and Jeremiah Johnson. Andy was big into Boy Scouts and survival guidebooks. You know, what bugs you could eat if you got lost in the woods, what plants you could eat without getting poisoned, how to outsmart a bear. Well, one summer day, we were in the Moore's backyard playing hide and seek, and I decided to climb up on the roof of an old wood cabin playhouse. From that vantage point, I could see Andy furiously running below into some bushes. I immediately jumped down and tagged him. I thought he'd be angry, honestly, but instead he asked me how I found him so quickly. When I told him my strategy, he was amazed and called me a smart kid with true survivalist skill sets. Of course, this made me feel 10 feet tall. I could probably even outsmart a bear if I knew where to find one. Fast forward a few more years. I was probably about 12 now, and there was a rock band playing in downtown Ashland that Andy took me to. It was the first band I'd ever seen live. I asked Andy what was making my body tinkle and vibrate. He told me it was the bass. Sometimes you can't always hear it, but you can always feel it, Andy said. I'd been playing the trumpet, but didn't really like it. I wanted a bass. Mom was reluctant and told me to stick to trumpet. Well, to my great fortune, Andy started playing an electric guitar and knew my interest in the bass, and that also he wanted someone to play along with. He snuck in a bass guitar, and I got to work on All Right Now by Free because it was the only song Andy knew at the time. Fortunately, it has a great bass line, and it even has a cool solo bass part in it. I loved it, and from there it was off to the races. I beat Eric Heiner to become the first chair bassist for the world-renowned Ashland High School Big Band. Started playing professionally by 16. Got a free ride to Cincinnati College Conservatory of Music at 18 and toured the world by 25. All thanks to Andy subverting my mom's wishes and sneaking into the house a bass guitar. I want to thank Andy for that one. As a side note here, since Eric Heiner's mom is here, I do want to come clean about her son. Eric was truly a great bass player, better than me. But I knew Dick Johnson was old school and knew he couldn't resist the upright bass. Better known as the bass fiddle for you hillbillies out there. So I got to work on learning how to play it. I didn't outplay Eric, I just maybe outsmarted him a little bit. There's one more thing I'd like to mention about Andy's character. All through the years and even through his illness, Andy never gossiped. Never said a bad word about anyone. I've never actually met a person like that. I even tried to bait him sometimes to say something negative about someone, but he never took it. He'd always find a positive trait in even the worst human being. That is truly an admirable trait. I'd like to thank the people who cared for Andy during his illness. My mom, Aunt Margaret, Tom and Dad, Kelly and Arnett for being my rock and my support team, Brooke McCormick, and Tabby and Xavier Kaufman for doing all the other stuff we couldn't do. Rest in peace, big bro. Peace at last.